This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 343.
I program my home computer.
We have a server crash, 404 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster. We have the technology.
Why, hello everybody. This is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, let's see. Upcoming events. First and foremost, we have WordCamp Lima out in Peru, but it's really online, so you don't have to travel. September 25th and 26th. And we have WordCamp Philadelphia, also September 26th, a single-day event there. So check those out. And there's some more stuff coming up. There's some summits, whatnot. I'm speaking to one of them. I'll mention that as I get closer to it, etc. down in October. So maybe next week I'll mention it. All right, moving on. Segment one in the news. A couple things here. Skyverge acquired by GoDaddy. So I know Skyverge from Jilt, the Jilt plugin and service. Jilt does abandoned cart recovery. There's a free level and paid levels. It's actually a pretty cool tool, and I was using it for the longest time here on actually the Kitchen Sink WP podcast for my ebook. I recently turned it off just to do some testing on some other services out there. But it's a solid plugin, and I've talked about abandoned carts in the past before. They also have a very, very strong WooCommerce plugin business as well. I think at one point, like in 2019, they were pulling in like $300,000 a month, which is crazy. But congratulations to everyone over there. The entire team, I believe, is going to GoDaddy as well. So there's that. Also, back on episode 337, I mentioned DocketWP as a tip and tool of the week. My buddy Kyle... not Kyle Maurer, but Kyle Van Houston, is that how you say his last name? Has a site and service now. I'm a huge fan of getting things done, checklists, that type of thing. So DocketWP lets you do that inside of your dashboard. It has a special. The site is now live. There's a special now. Just I'm going to share this with you. It's called, if you use the code LAUNCHSPECIAL, you'll save 20% through this Thursday. And that would be like the week of... September 21st. So after that, you get a 10% discount. I have no connection to them other than Kyle's a friend. He has a podcast. He's just a cool guy. I want to share that with you. So there's that. And also in the news, I want to follow up something I mentioned a few months back, I believe, maybe a few weeks, but a few months, about questions I've been answering about going from freelancer to agency, and how some of my friends, and my friend Shay is like, hey, you know what? People might pay. She said she would pay for a course in this. That's kind of, speed up the process of learning how to go from freelancer to agency. So I'm like, maybe I will do a course. And I always like to gauge interest first. That's always a good way to do it. So I have a survey over at kitchensinkwp.com/agency survey. It's like 3-4 questions plus a field you can add some comments of your own to. If you're interested in learning about how I, really the tools and the whole process that I've been going through the past 4 years, go take the survey. I would really appreciate it. It'd be awesome to have your feedback, so that way I know there's a demand and interest there. So, so we'll see if there's enough demand and interest and it makes sense, then I will put together a course and make it really cool and affordable and fun and whatnot. So there you go. All right, moving on to segment 2. This week's episode, Meat and Potatoes, is the Q&A episode. More questions, more answers. And I have three questions here, 3 or 4 questions here. So yeah, it'd be pretty cool. All right, so here we go. Starting off with number 1, Linda asks this question: what's the deal with expiring domains and status codes? Looking to get a domain for someone, but it's taken, sort of. It has some registrar hold status. Okay, well, Linda, this is a great question. And it can be a bit of a rabbit hole, but I'll take a very high-level view of this to answer this for you. When you buy a domain, you can register it for up to 10 years. That's, I think there's one place you can do it for 100 years, but anyway, most registrars give you 1, 2, 5, or 10 years at a time. And you're, quote, buying it, you own it, but you rent it. That's a whole separate conversation. But let's say you buy it for, a couple years. Let's say 2 years. I don't recommend people getting it more than that to start when they start something new, just because, it could just be money down the tube, you'll say. Anyway, so after 2 years, you need to renew. It's at that time that the status could change. So there's different hosts and have slightly different rules, but the general gist of it is this. From day 1 to day 45, you can still renew it at the same price. 30 days past that renewal, you can still get it if you're the original buyer, but it's usually at a higher price. It's a penalty for waiting. And approximately 5 days after that, the domain can get deleted from the registry. and then becomes available to be sold again. Okay. Of course, days and times vary based on the registrar. And if there's a back order for the domain or it's up for auction, it could be snapped up by somebody else at the moment it becomes available. Okay. ICANN has a definition of the status codes, and I'll link to that in the show notes. And there's a diagram I've always used in the past. If you have the domain, there's like a redemption period, and there's all those different statuses, register compass status. There's just a whole bunch of different codes, and that's where you want to go look at ICANN. You see where things are at. But typically, if the domain expires, you're looking at least 2.5, 3 months, the 45 days, that window, and then another 30 days. So let's just say 2 months before you might be able to grab it if it's expired. So when I know a lot of people jump on domains, or in the past, one of the things people would do, they would jump on a domain and use it that expired and use that for SEO, because if it had good SEO and someone forgot to renew it or they stopped using it, they can then use it to help their own SEO because it matched their business model. So interesting little take there, a little side note. Anyway, I hope that helps. Over at ICANN.org resources pages, like again, I will put a link in the show notes. And if I wanted to, I guess I could read you a couple. I think you had mentioned on a second message that you sent to me that there was it was like a status renewal period or something. I forgot the one you said. Oh, pending transfer. That indicates the transfer of your domain is to a new register that it's been received and it's in the process. So maybe that was the one you had asked about. There's pending update, redemption period, renewal period. There's just a whole bunch in there. So I'll link to that in the show notes as well. All right. Hope that helps. George sent a DM via Twitter. Oh, yeah, this is about refunds. Should he offer refunds? And I think, let me check here real quick. Episode 335, memory serves correct. I did actually just answer that recently, about 2 months ago. Every 2 months I do these Q&A episodes. Joey asked about refunds, so check that out. Short answer, yeah, I think if you're providing value and you want to, it depends on the product at hand. Digital versus physical. Is there value proposition? How long has it been? Those are the things. But the full episode, back in episode 335, might make for a better, more in-depth answer versus me repeating it here. All right. And then the last question here. Yeah, last question is, who sent this in? This is no name on this one. This is anonymous? I think it is. Anyway, site updates are not showing on Firefox, but they work in Chrome and Safari. I'm sorry, they work in Safari. They don't show up in Chrome. They work in Safari and Firefox. Why is that? So, Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous, first and foremost, Chrome has a known issue here, and I know this from experience recently, that sometimes it just doesn't want to clear the cache. So what you want to do, what I've learned to do, is I inspect the site by right-clicking and say inspect elements, or how do I actually do that? If I click on this and I say, inspect, just inspect the site. And then from there, I can go back to the window, the front window. If I right-click or you control-click on the reload button, you'll get some other options there. Normal reload, hard reload, empty cache, and hard reload. Pretty cool little trick there with Chrome specifically. So that's my step one. Step two is I check the host, and I'll see if they have any host-side caching, server-side caching. And because many managed hosts, and I know this because I just went to one, they have the ability to turn that on and off. And if you don't have the ability, you can always ask them to do it possibly for you. I've turned that off. And then some hosts also have what's called development mode. So it removes caching altogether while you're working on the site, making changes. That way nothing gets cached. So it's kind of a twofold there. So definitely do that. And then if it's working in Chrome, if it's working in Safari and Firefox and not Chrome, then you also know it's a Chrome thing. Chrome does not like to give up its cache. It's kind of weird. I'm actually on the verge and on the fence of leaving Chrome, going back to like Firefox or Safari for that matter. I'm kind of getting a little tired of it, and it just like seems to be using a lot of my CPU all the time. So if you have experience there, let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback on what you're using for websites, for browsing, development, looking at stuff, etc. So, but Chrome is just so ingrained in what we do with Google stuff anyway, not with we, but the world as a whole. Anyway, so my buddy Dustin, he recently switched on his new laptop. He barely uses it. I think he's on Safari, if I'm not mistaken. So couldn't be happier apparently. He just wishes his internet was faster, more consistently, because long story. Anyway, all right, moving on. Is that the last question? I thought there was one more. No, I guess that's it for this week. Okay, last thing here, segment 3, tip and tool of the week, hostingchecker.com. It tells you where a site is hosted. I've been using this this last week or so as I've been migrating sites, moving things around, breaking things up. So I want to make sure that the name servers, the A records, things have been moving around. There's other ones out there as well. This is just a quick little place I found to see where sites are. and make sure that I can comfortably remove a site from an old host as I've moved it to the new host, hostingchecker.com. I have no connection to them, just kind of a cool little website that I found that works for me. That is it for this week. If you have any questions, go ahead, send it in via email, adam@kitchensinkwp.com. Use the SpeakPipe function on the website. You can support the show by becoming a Patreon. You can send me some coffee. There's that as well. You can sponsor the show, the form on the website. You can also take part of that survey. Don't forget about that. That would be awesome if you did that. I really would appreciate it. It's back over at, where was it? It's at kitchensinkwp.com/agency survey. Literally 3 questions and a field you can enter for some comments as well. I would really appreciate that. Thanks for listening. Go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. See you next week. All right. Bye-bye.